bati salawe tulelya ngabo lefa fumena ka famela so mlefa
Where's the president?
It's still up. Ah, wait, kana. Next, never next.
You sing the national anthem or just start with prayer?
Let's have a prayer. We've kept them waiting for too long.
Honorable Hichilema, would you kindly open in prayer for us?
We are praying. Our gracious Father above in heaven, Lord, we want to thank you for the opportunity to pray for so many people. We thank you over the affairs of this country and this planet. This is the sole purpose, Lord, why you created a human being. Father, we pray that you continue guiding us and protecting us against all the spheres of the evil one. Continue, Lord, protecting us with the blood of your Son, Jesus Christ. For all this we pray. Amen.
Thank you very much. Be seated. We are privileged today that the party will hold a press conference. It will be addressed by the acting president, Honorable given Lubinda. I'll just invite members of the Central Committee that are here to quickly introduce themselves, starting with our most senior, oldest member of the Central Committee.
Mr. Peter Kajila, member of Central Committee since 2001.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Acting President. My name is Honorable Dr. Frankie. I'm the Chairman for Industry.
Thank you.
Sylvia Vambala Chalikosa, Chairperson Commerce.
Good morning, President. Good morning, everybody. My name is George Kangwa Chisanga, Chairman for Legal and Constitutional Affairs and NCC.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Nakatinda Rafang, Chairman for Information and Publicity.
Thank you. Oh, you are next. Just introduce yourself.
Stephen Kampiongo, MP, member of the Central Committee, and Chief Whip for part of the Council Parliament.
My friend name is Agoma Chiosha Sambo, former member of Parliament for Kavishi Constituency, MCC.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Ronald Tontela. I'm a member of Parliament for Kambaki. I'm one of the few members of Parliament in Parliament on the PF ticket who are serving their third term. And I think we are just 4. And I'm a member of the Central Committee.
And you're coming for the 5th term.
I will do the 6th term.
Thank you.
My name is Kayula, member of Central Committee.
Thank you.
My name is Mtoto Kapwaya, MCC. Thank you so much.
So we have other senior members of the party, members of Parliament, but for purposes of time, I'll skip that. Honorable Acting President, I will invite you to, without any delay, to address the press conference.
Thank you. Honorable colleagues, members of the Central Committee, honorable members of Parliament, members of the Provincial Committee of Lusaka, members of the Lusaka District Committee, those of you who are here, and most importantly, my friends from the press. I want to sincerely apologize to you members of the press for starting this meeting late. We sincerely apologize. And I want to thank you for your patience. As a way of rewarding you for your patience, I will make sure that my statement is brief. I have 6 matters that I'd like to address today. The first is the democratic space in Zambia. In the run-up to the 2021 elections, Zambians were treated to a lot of rhetoric as to how the Patriotic Front was not allowing political parties to organize and mobilize. When Zambians went to the polls in August 2021, it was on the hope and expectation that the democratic space that was being provided by the Patriotic Front would be increased, and visibly so, by the UPND. That was one of the reasons why the UPND were voted for. For 2 years, the Patriotic Front decided to allow the political tempo in the country to cool down. As such, we resisted our strong desire to engage the public in Zambia through political rallies. We were anxious as a political organization to meet the Zambian people, to thank the Zambian people for the support they had given to us for the last 10 years, from 2011 to 2021. We were also eager to go and thank the 1.8 million Zambians who voted for us. We were also eager to go and say to the 1.8 million who didn't vote for us that we were learning our lessons. However, we restrained ourselves because we thought that we should give the UPND time to acclimatize and to get on top of governance. The very first attempt that we made to meet with Zambians on the 26th of August met with a lot of resistance. Notwithstanding the fact that we gave the police more than 14 days notice of our intention to meet, they still put roadblocks in our way. This culminated in us appealing to the minister, who in turn referred us back to the Inspector General of Police, and who in a very draconian manner said to us he was going to determine the date when we should hold our rally. Very much against the provisions of the Public Order Act. Our people were gathered, our people were ready to listen to us on the 26th of August. This is something that you, my friends in the press, are fully aware of. Our rally was foiled by the police. To our surprise, the police were able to mobilize more than 600 uniformed police officers, and we don't know how many non-uniformed police officers gathered to frustrate our rally. they had 600 police officers to guard an empty ground. And yet initially they claimed they didn't have only 50 police officers to come and marshal our rally. All we needed was maybe 10 police officers. And they said they didn't have them. But as it turned out, they had more than 600 to go and surround a ground, all in the quest of frustrating our operations. What was worse was that the constitutional freedoms of some of us were curtailed by the police on that day. Our freedom of movement was curtailed. I have no reason whatsoever to give to Grafel Muhesamba when I decide to travel internally or locally or externally. I have no reason whatsoever to give to him. But on that day, he stopped a number of us from entering Matero. He was infringing on our constitutional freedom of movement. This, my dear brothers and sisters, might appear as though it is only pain that is being exerted on members of the Patriotic Front. But I want to assure you that what is done to one shall be done to the next. The fact that this is being done to the Patriotic Front does not mean that the rest of society are free. Because of this, I want to assure you that we have instructed our team of lawyers to take up these two matters. We seek legal redress on these two matters. Number one, Hakainde Hichilema's decision to foil our rally on the 26th of August. And number two, Hakainde Hichilema's decision to use the police as tools of intimidation and tools to curtail our enjoyment of our constitutional freedom of movement. When I said once that the UPND and Hakainde Hichilema are scared little men, this is exactly what I meant. Scared even to allow us to meet. And truly, like little boys, after Hakainde frustrated our rally, what did he do? A few days later, he was trotting all the townships in Lusaka. He even didn't have the audacity to allow this to cool down. He didn't allow not even 2 weeks to pass. The very next week, after he foiled our attempt, he decided that he will now show off that, you see, for me, I can go anywhere. Scared little man. Scared little man. When he realized that the Zambians, the people in Lusaka, had a huge appetite to listen to us, he decided that if I go now, they will listen to me. Scared little man. He went round our townships. He went to Kabanana. He went to Munali. He went to Kanyama. He went to Chawama. 3 things occurred which I want to comment on when he was traversing Lusaka. Number one, I hope that when he was standing through the rooftop of that vehicle, his eyes were seeing. I hope he was seeing what the Zambian people were telling him. When those people were screaming, when those people were screaming, Muina Mweka, I hope he was listening. And I hope that that has sunk in him, that he has caused pain to the Zambian people. The second thing I'd like to comment on is the brutalization of our innocent citizens. Our rally was foiled. Not a single person was injured. We were supposed to have been angry. But because we care for this country, we made sure that nobody would be injured. As for him who has the power, who doesn't need the authority of the police to hold meetings, what happened? Dorcas mothers in Chawama compound were brutalized, beaten up. And as I speak now, there are 10 police reports. 20 police reports. Why were those innocent Dorcas mothers brutalized? Why? Scared little man. A courageous and confident person never becomes violent. The moment you see a person raising their fist, it is because they have reached the apex of their thinking capacity. Then they resort to violence. For the UPND under Hakainde Hichilema to go and beat up innocent mothers when you're supposed to be going out to give them hope shows that he himself is hopeless. He has no message for the Zambian people. And his handlers tried to make it appear as though the people are happy. So whoever they thought would rise and say Njala, they had to beat. That is called rule of terror. Rule of terror coming from a person who postures as a person who's following the rule of law is totally abominable. It is highly hypocritical. The third comment I have on those township visits of his is the embarrassment that any Zambian should be feeling to read the President of the Republic of Zambia, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Zambia, bragging about sinking a domestic borehole in a township. A president of a country bragging, I have sunk a domestic borehole, not for one person, but for a community, for a township. Not in my village in Kalabo, but in the city of the country. The capital city with more than 3 million residents. The president brags, I have commissioned a borehole, domestic borehole. What a shame. What a shame. If I was to hear any of the PFMPs posting on their Facebook bragging they have sunk a borehole in their constituency, I would reprimand them. Because if they brag about sinking a borehole, what will the councillor do? What will the councillor do? Now, I'm saying this because as a patriotic Zambian, I expect the President of the Republic of Zambia to be visionary. I expect the Republic of Zambia to be talking about matters that impact positively on the majority of Zambians. I was hoping that the President on those tours would go and give hope to the Zambians. Instead, he killed even the little hope that people had in him. Because if he's satisfied with sinking a borehole, how will he handle the sale of KCM? It shows that that is far beyond him. He is satisfied with small little things. How will he handle the big things? I condemned the people who booed President Edgar Chagwa Lungu at the inauguration of President Hakainde Hichilema. But I didn't hear anyone from the UPND condemning them. Today, I want to say, I feel pity for Hakainde Hichilema. That less than 24 months since being sworn in and people celebrating at Hero Stadium, less than 24 months later, people have the courage to stand straight, stand with their face straight to him, not hiding and booing him. I feel pity for him. The people who gathered at Heroes Stadium obviously were from one party, and that's the reason why they booed ECL. But what about the ones who booed a sitting president less than 24 months after being sworn in? What does that say? It tells that the Zambian people have now started to realize that what we said prior to the elections of 2021 has come to manifest itself. The devil you know is better than the angel you don't. And not everything that glitters is gold. The Zambians have started to realize that the angel is actually the devil. What posture does the angel has now started to show its true colors as the devil. Those of you who are as old as I am will remember that our founding father, Kenneth David Kaunda, sat on that seat of presidency for 26 years before anyone booed him. 26 years. It was only in the 1990 and 1991 when people had the courage to boo Kenneth Kaunda. Ever since then, the 5 successive presidents ended their tenure without being booed. My friend has ended booing in 2 years. I shudder to imagine what will happen after 4 years. My appeal to President Hakainde is watch the space. At these meetings of his, what was he saying? When he went to Lusaka Correctional Facility, all of us believed he was going there to console those people. We believed that he was going to console our brothers and sisters who happen to find themselves on the other side of the law. Instead, what did President Hakainde do? He seized that moment to issue threats. Threats against what he refers to as the thugs, PF thugs. A democratically elected president chooses to use a platform such as the one that he was offered at Lusaka Correctional Services to say these PF thugs have started regrouping. He even goes further to say they are walking free because of my kindness, otherwise they'd have all been arrested. President Hakainde, the freedom of association that Zambians enjoy is not at your behest. It is not because of you. The Constitution of Zambia was first written when you and me were still in diapers or nappies. You and me did not take part in writing that Constitution. Our forefathers decided that every Zambian shall have a freedom of association. And they did not say that the person who's elected president is the one who's going to give this freedom to the people. No. That is our constitutional right. And threats of that nature shall not intimidate us. It shall not intimidate us. And get it from me, we will not be stopped by you from regrouping. If you're going to a football match and you know the stadium you're going to use, both teams are allowed to go and test the ground. If the home team decides, no, we will not allow the visiting team to test the ground, what does that mean? Scared little men. For you to intimidate us and tell us not to regroup, it simply shows us, Hakainde, that even your victory, you yourself know your victory was a fluke. You are so scared stiff to allow us to even meet, because if we do, you know that the people who will listen to us, they will not boo us. Zambians must be assured that the Patriotic Front shall continue to regroup.
Yeah.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, ordinary members of the party, ordinary citizens, have been beseeching us as to why we're not reorganizing. They have been telling us, what are you waiting for? We here, as a matter of fact, have delayed what the Zambian people want us to do.
Yes.
And Hakainde Mwenzuma, we are going to regroup.
Yeah.
No yanda, no tayandi, we shall regroup. We'll even regroup in Bwengwa. Agubwengwa kwa onse turasiga mudala, we're coming to regroup in Bwengwa. Tatuingo mbea gope. We already gave instructions to our Copper Belt Committee, our Central Province Committee, and our Lusaka Committee. Between now and 28th of October, we're going to show that we can regroup. Yes. With or without money, we shall regroup.
Yes.
Our confidence is in the people. And the people are the ones who want to meet us. Hakainde, the Democrat, and he wants to posture as a Democrat. He even has the audacity to stand as a president and say, tizachinja mingalato. Akavinira huku naise tavinira huko tikasiriza tapinda mukakumbuyo tagwira pakosi.
Shame on him.
Mutu ya kama yomu mukangoto kimuloi.
Yes. Kiniti.
Muntu ujata mwenyina ansingo mujai. Even in wrestling, there are rules that apply when you hold another person's throat. Because if you want to kill a person quickly, you strangle them. And you don't strangle them by holding the hand. You strangle them by the neck. For a Republican president to stand in front of a crowd, which includes young, innocent children, and to say to them, Nizamugwira pakosi. Where to, dear Zambia? Where to, my mother country? If the president is the one who's going to be introducing murderous tactics to people and encouraging murderous attack, if you hold somebody on the throat from the back, how do they defend themselves? I said scared little men, scared little man, but now it is scared little murderer. A boxer has rules. You don't punch a person when they're giving you their back. Face them in front. Hitting somebody in boxing while you are facing their back is called a bad tactic. And it's a sign of cowardice. Hakainde wants to murder us using dirty tactics.
He's a murderer.
I thought that the name BMW was enough. But it seems like it is not. He is actually murderous BMW. I don't think any right-thinking person in the world would tolerate any leader of any kind to issue such a threat. It is totally unheard of. It is totally unheard of. Alebwererapo, akekera pesa. For goodness sake, that pamupando, you're not the first. You are the 7th. And if you think you shall be the last, wabeja. Wabeja. That is not your seat. We told you in 2021, Naimwe Mazambians, you don't listen. We told you, we said, we know this man. The way he rose in UPND and came and took over and said, Amuamu Yayaya, is what he is also thinking he can do to Zambia. Azabwerapo, azakalapati. I'll come back to the issue of Mingalato. But before I talk about that, let me just remind my friend Hakainde. He has told us now, give me time. Give me time. Give UPND time. Muzamba manje muzamba kudya. Monday sima. Tuesday rice. Wednesday potato. Balanced diet. Na balanced diet saziyo. You afford electricity. You afford fuel. Bwanji. I want to remind President Hakainde that in leadership, there is also morality. Just like in ordinary life, there is morality. President Hakainde, in the run-up to the elections in 2021, he told you Zambians, vote for me. Declare me at 12 hours. At 10 hours, I'm elected. At 12 hours, I'm sworn in. At 14 hours, the dollar will be 10 kwacha. He did not say, after you vote for me, I will take 10 years. No. He said within 2 hours, the dollar, the kwacha will appreciate. He did not tell us that when you vote for me, I'll wait for 2 years before the price of minimum becomes 50 kwacha per 50 kg bag. He said you vote for me in August. By October, the price of minimum will be 50 kwacha. He told you Zambians that if you are mugula per 15 kwacha a liter, it is because the PF are allowing middlemen to steal 3 kwacha. So when you elect me, the fuel price will be 12 kwacha per liter. He did not say after 2 years. But now after 2 years, what has the reality been? Millimil, which he found at 120 kwacha, today is 310 kwacha. He didn't say, I'll increase prices so that I can come and reduce them like his deputy president, vice president said. No. Fuel, like I said, was at 15 kwacha. Today, fuel is 30 kwacha. Double.
Within 2 years.
He found fertilizer. We were selling fertilizer on the open market at 650 kwacha a bag. Today, it's 1,300 kwacha a bag. Electricity connection fee from 750 kwacha to 7,700 kwacha. And yet he comes to us and tells us, Yembekezani, I'm consulting. Me, I'm very visionary. Inaona kudala huko. I told you that in politics, just like in ordinary life, there is a value, a virtue called morality. Once you promise a person, and especially once you promise a people, a country, and they give you what you're asking for, the presidency, and you realize that that promise you made, you're not capable of fulfilling it. If you're a morally upright person, what do? You resign. You resign. But if you are such a greedy person and you are afraid of resigning, at least the next thing you do before you make another promise is to apologize. You apologize and say, Zambians, I am sorry. I deceived you, Zambians. Or at least if you want to hide that you are a deceptive person, you say, Wane, sinenzo ziva, I didn't know. Sina yoziva kuti vintu nivovuta. I promised you kuti nizabweza mutengo wa chimanga, but now I've realized no, vavuta. Please nipasa nikontau nipunzile. That's what a morally upright person does. You don't just hide your promises and come up with new promises. Nikuona wantu puva. And yes, You can fool some people sometime, but you can't fool all the people all the time. You can't. Ati uza kuti no, things will be better. How can things be better when we can see that the cost of production is increasing? We advised him, we said, you cannot be changing the price of fuel every month. You can't be changing the price of electricity every month. Because the producers of goods and services have a one-year planning perspective. You can't find a businessman who buys commodities today at this cost and produces without knowing what the cost will be for replacing those raw materials. No. People put prices based on the cost of replacement of raw materials. And what is happening now is that all businesses are planning on the basis of increment of fuel prices on a monthly basis. So they are taking the highest at the end of the year and passing it on to consumers because they have to survive. Who has caused that? The so-called economist. And that is the same with all other commodities. And with that in place, he's still saying, I am visionary, I'm seeing far. Now you see, this is the danger of people who claim to see far. If you put your perspective far and you don't see what is here, you fall in the ditch. Yes. And that's what's happening with this government. They are thinking they are seeing far, and yet they can't see what is right in front of them, right under their nose. We want a leadership that will look down under the nose and see the problems now, fix the problems now for the future. Don't create problems now, hoping that the future will solve itself. No. You can't solve future problems if you're failing to solve the problems now. We also advised him, we said, we were not negligent when we slowed down our negotiations with the IMF. We were not negligent at all. We kept repeating this. We said we did not agree with the 5 conditions that were given to us by the IMF. And we refused to accept those conditionalities because we knew that they're going to hurt the citizens of Zambia. We refused to remove fuel subsidies because we knew that many farmers will not be able to produce if the fuel costs increase. We knew that with the increase in cost of fuel, there will be increase in cost of goods and services. I was in Ikembe, in the village, the other weekend. And I said to my relatives there, well done. You voted here for UPND. And now you have free education. Well done. Now my relatives in this village can go to school. And they said to me, Mukwabo, free education when we can't afford fuel to take our children to school. Our children are just sitting in the village because we have no money to take them to school because of the cost of fuel, because of the cost of transport. In Kabwata, where I live, children are being transferred from schools where they were initially to be brought back close to home. Why? Because the parents can't afford transport costs. Of what use is free education? And by the way, what is even that free education? 200 kwacha per term. Ni free education. 200 kwacha. And Zambians are even singing, hey, free education. 200 kwacha. Free 200 kwacha free education. Wana malaiti mulibe manjamba na kakoloboi. They can't study because the parents can't afford electricity. I want to assure you Zambians that for as long as President Hakainde continues for as long as he continues on the IMF program, even his so-called long-term vision is blurred. And what he's talking about is just, again, like he talked about before elections, Alice in Wonderland, dreaming, daydreaming. He's just simply daydreaming. He was daydreaming before 2021 when he said, I'm going to reduce the price of milk. He was daydreaming. When reality dawned, he said, give me 10 years. Who told him that we want to keep him there for 10 years? We keep him there for 10 years when he's planning to murder all of us by wringing our necks. Who will remain by that time? Because ali once asa dandaula, he will do mingalato na kwenda kumbuyo na kukama pakosi. You cannot reduce the cost of living in a country where the production of the staple food is not managed properly. You can't. Ayamba kunama manje, and you know, when you are mythomaniac, even when you try to tell the truth, your tongue becomes heavy. When you are allergic to the truth, when you want to say the truth, your tongue becomes tied. Because you just have the disease of telling lies. When you're telling lies, then your lip and your tongue are free. Surely can you believe that the head of state can say, when we took over, there was no maize? Eh? Ni president wa Bwanjana Maboza yaso. Has he forgotten that his own Minister of Information, Kasanda, early 2022 was showing us silos in Chisamba? And she was pointing and saying, this maize was from 2019, from 2020, from 2021. We can't keep maize for such a long time. We have to offload it to the export market so that we create space for new maize. And yet President Akamba, we didn't find maize. Kubeja kwa moyo boyu musa uragusampuya please ndagomba Hakainde. Now, like I told you, besides just increasing the cost of fertilizer, even just the management of the procurement of fertilizer has become a problem. In 1 year, he has cancelled the procurement process 3 times. Issue tender, people apply, they evaluate, afterwards, no, cancel, start again. Second one, evaluate, cancel. Third time, evaluate, cancel. And now we just see that they are shortlisting privately. Why are they doing that? Why are they doing that? I want to commend you, journalists. Keep your sources active. As we have read today in one of the newspapers, $7.8 million is what has motivated the cancellation, revival of the fertilizer procurement procedure. People want to pocket $7.8 million. Who's going to pay that? Poor Zambians. You will pay it in the increased price of maize and the increased price of milk. Enriching who? The ones who are instructing. Start, cancel. Start, cancel. And he's saying, I have a vision far. The Patriotic Front, in realizing that we cannot leave the trade in our staple food to the private sector alone, we decided to invest in Zambia Police. We invested in ZNS. We invested in giving them capacity to grow maize. We also gave them capacity to mill maize. The reason why we set up milling plants in police stations, in the police farms and ZNS farms, was because we wanted these to stabilize the local price of milling meal. That when the private sector increase the price of milling meal because of shortage of maize, then we can instruct police and ZNS to release maize, to release milling meal on the market to dampen prices. That's how people who are visionaries think. People who think far, that's how they think. They think now and plan for far. They don't forget now and think far. No. Now these who think far, what have they done? They have now told ZNS, go and print bags written ZNS for export. How can Zambia National Service, an organization that is paid by taxpayers, an organization that draws money from you, the Zambian people, how can you tell them that you export when the private sector is also exporting? Who's going to cushion the local market? You can see that these are blind people. When I was a boy, I used to be told the story of short people. That when a short person met you and they asked you, wanuonera kuti? Ukamuza tinakuonera hapa kumenya. Koma umuza tinakuonera uko. Chimozi mozi na, because they don't have any vision whatsoever. This is the reason they are pretending and saying, don't worry, we're not solving problems, we're solving for far, so that you don't realize that actually they are not planning anything. Because uko kufaa, simu zafikako, you will not hold them accountable. Let us see them changing things now. We want the paradigm shift now. And if they have failed, the moral thing to do is to say, Vane nakangiwa. There are many other things they can do. And there are many other Zambians who are capable of this running this country better. Look at the disaster that Hakainde himself personally, and this is not about his government, he himself personally, Hakainde Hichilema Masami, murderous BMW. Last year, you remember what he did? Before the planting season of 2022-23, what did he say? He told Zambian farmers, I've found a big market for soya in China. This is a good opportunity. Farmers grow soya because there's an export market. Farmers, including myself, Banakachinda, even me, I was deceived. I was deceived. I took 10 hectares of my maize field. I said, I'm going to do soya. When I harvested, what did Hakainde say? I'm not buying the soya. And then, at 11 kwacha. 6 kwacha. Yes, 6 kwacha. 4 kwacha. Who created poverty among those farmers? BMW. BMW. Anatiuza ise PF are delaying in removing Vedanta. Me, when I come, the first thing I'll do is to remove Vedanta because Vedanta is a bankrupt group. They are not mining and so on and so forth. People are suffering because of Edgar Chagwalungu. He is in cahoot with ECA, with the Vedanta. We told the Zambian people that, look, Vedanta gave us a number of promises. And of all these promises, including paying suppliers and paying taxes, of all the promises Vedanta hadn't fulfilled, not even one promise. And what did Hakainde say? I'll remove them. In 2022, what did he say? I'll remove them, these people. Me, I'm going to remove them. I want these court cases to end. I remove them. I'm not bringing back Vedanta. Now, this year, what is he saying? Today, what is he saying? I'm bringing back Vedanta because they have promised that they're going to invest 1 billion. And they'll be better under us. They were devils under PF. They'll be better under us. People who everybody knows are bankrupt. I'm sure that some of you remember what Edgar Chagwalungu said. He challenged Hakainde when Hakainde was opposition leader. He said, you, Hakainde, don't lie to the Zambian people. These people have promised you money. And you're even telling them that no, $100,000 ya chepa. Ikaniponiina. Now we're being vindicated. Asiapa. You can't hide lies for a long time. The truth will always catch up. And on behalf of PF, I have to say, we condemn the decision to bring back Vedanta. And we stand with the people of Chingola. And in regrouping, we shall also go to Chingola to go and talk to the people in Chingola. I once asked our chairman for mines, Honorable Musukwa. He appeared on 5FM. I'll ask him to appear now on even more radio stations so that he can give the Zambian people all the technical aspects of this Vedanta business. So that Zambians can see that actually we're being shortchanged over this Vedanta business. This is simply another channel of siphoning money. Talking about siphoning money, I want to talk to my friend. And when I say friend, colleagues, I don't mean it in bad faith. When I say friend, they are my friend. And this friend I'm talking to now is my friend Kavesha. Kavesha, you've had a very distinguished legal career. Highly distinguished gentleman. But my friend, for your own information, if you're not aware, you are being trapped. And you may be alone. The ones who are trapping you will not be there. You, Kavesha Mulilo, as Attorney General of the Republic of Zambia, you are legal advisor number 1 to Hakainde and to Cabinet. And you know better than many other Zambians and many lawyers that the concept of a nole in court is not an acquittal. This is the reason why when I was arrested myself at the behest of Nelly Muti, I told the NPA, I said, I don't want a nonsensical nole. I refuse. You either arrest, convict me, or acquit me. Because a nole is not an acquittal. What we've been observing in the recent past is theft, open siphoning of public resources. We saw this happen in the Hatembo case. Those fellows who were implicated in the Hatembo case, they were not convicted, nor were they acquitted. They were released on a nole. What that means is that at any time in the future, the state may rearrest you and prosecute you. It means that you still have this issue on your head. You have Jibudu on your head. Now, for you to go and start sitting, Attorney General, with people who are carrying knowledge, and you enter consent and we say, we'll compensate you. Don't think that Hakainde is the only person who has the propensity of digging the past. And especially because of Hakainde's conduct, you can also be less assured that the next government will have people who will say, naisetenti kumbe. And they will dig and they will find that you, Kabesha Mulilo, you are the one who's entering consent judgments over these knowledge. You give people 6.4 million kwacha each on a knowledge of the treason issue in Mongu. None of those people was acquitted. No. The next government might open that matter again and say, we want to investigate how this matter was conducted. How was the 6th president's safety impaired? When that happens, what will happen? When you've already paid people 6.4 million? And by the way, Kabesha Muliro, if indeed your government is a just government, why don't you list down all the people who are on Nole? Because there are many. In this country, there are many people who are on a Nole. People who were arrested, they were put behind cells, behind bars, and the state preferred to enter a Nole. Why don't you list all of them and compensate all of them? Why are you being selective? Why only your friends, your relatives? Why? And also beyond that, Kabesha, having been minister in that ministry, I want to tell you that we know that there are people on that compensation and awards fund from way back in the 1990s who are yet to be paid. The retirees are on that same list. Why is it that you have not cleared the people that the government owes from many years ago, but you are paying these ones now? Why? Where is justice? Why are you not following the principle of first in, first out? Now you're following the principle of last in, first out. Why? This, as far as we're concerned, is simply looting. Looting. There were 13 people who were involved in that matter. 14 people involved in that treason matter. One has said, I will not start this matter until after I've left office. Nina mulandu na boma for which I'm president, but because I'm president, mulandu unkalepa mbali, nikachoka o president, I'll bring back this matter. I must be compensated. Huh? Now, out of those 14, one says, I'll come back, nikachoka o president. Then there are 13. Of the 13, Kabesha, why only 10? Why are they not on the list? Why are those 3 not on the list? Attorney General, tell us why those 3 are not on the list. And don't tell me that they didn't come to you, because that was a group action. It wasn't individual action, it was group action. When you preferred a Nole on all of them, it was all the 14. You can't pick willy-nilly. Tell us the reason why the 3 are not there. And I leave this to you, journalists. Find out what is the difference between those 10 who are on that compensation list and the 3 who are left out. Find out and write the story. And Amuzani, that is total looting. And I want to assure you, my friend Kabesha, this matter will not rest. It shall haunt you. I may be there, I may not be there, but I can assure you, it shall haunt you. I cannot end my briefing without talking about the biggest SADC fiasco. At the moment, there's a fiasco in SADC. And in discussing that fiasco, I want to say to you, and through you to report to the Zambians, that the team that I led to the inauguration of President Mnangagwa in Zimbabwe was a very, very satisfying outing. And we were very happy to have been invited by President Mnangagwa and the Zimbabwean government. I will not talk about the others who were invited. I will talk about my party. We were invited and were represented there, and we were very delighted because hadn't we been there, Zambia would have been conspicuously missing at the inauguration of a president of a country with whom we share not only history, but culture and tradition. The colonial masters did not make a mistake, and it was not an accident when they named the two countries North and South Rhodesia. When President Michael Sata called the two countries Siamese twins, it was based on that fact. We share a lot in common. There are many Zambians today whose heritage is traced back to Zimbabwe. Just like there are many Zimbabweans whose heritage is traced back to Zambia. When President Hakainde Hichilema was being sworn in, Zimbabwe was represented by President Mnangagwa and also by leader of an opposition, Nelson Chamisa. They were both here. For us, we did not even hear the name of the person who was representing President Hakainde. The name was not announced. We just happened to bump into him in a hotel. Yeah. That's when we realized that Kakubo, Minister of Foreign Affairs, is in Zimbabwe. We were also very delighted that President Mnangagwa invited his friend, our 6th Republican president. And I want to report to you that the stadium was electric when the name of the 6th Republican president was announced. All the people in the stadium rose in applause in the approval of the presence of President Edgar Chagwa Lungu. I have to say that as acting president of the Patriotic Front, I have no interest in what the UPND does about their international relations. But as a citizen, I have interest in what my government does about the interests, international relations of the country. Zambia was amongst the founding states of the frontline movement. And as you are well aware, Zambia paid in blood, Zambia paid in infrastructure, Zambia paid in money for the liberation of countries in the region, including Zimbabwe. Zambia was amongst the founding countries of the SADC and COMESA. Zambia has always played a significant role in the leadership of this region. and all our heads of state, all of them, followed the footsteps of Kenneth David Kaunda in standing straight in our region. It therefore defiles Zambia's position when our current government does not even send a public congratulatory message for the elections in our neighboring country. What message is being sent? Are we enemies? Are we trying to declare Zimbabwe as antagonistic to us? What reaction should we expect from Zimbabwe? If the UPND does not want to congratulate ZANU-PF, so be it. But the government of the Republic of Zambia has a duty on behalf of the Zambians to congratulate Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF. We know that in this region there are political party alliances. We know. But after elections are held, morality just demands that you go beyond those little petty differences and congratulate the other. Zambia is not being led by the opposition, no. Nor is Zimbabwe going to be led by the opposition, no. Mozambique was represented at that inauguration ceremony. And how wonderful it was to see President Nyusi being called upon, and soon after that, former President Chisano also being called upon. The current and the former were both there, and they were treated with respect. Now for us, the former is invited. He does not get any money from the government or Republic of Zambia. How he got there, nobody knows. How he was catered for, nobody knows. The only gift he receives from his government, while he is outside the country, the gift he receives is a call out for his wife. A police call out for his wife. Is that how to treat a former president? On this score, I'd like to thank all those people who prayed for the former First Lady, Madam Esther Lungu. I know that many Zambians were on their knees yesterday. I know many Zambians were wishing her well. And I want to thank all those who came to IBEX police and kept vigil, where another extremely diabolical thing occurred. In this country, there are only two people who carry the name Republican President, and two people who carry the name First Lady. One is former Republican President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, and the current president, two. As for First Ladies, there is only one, former First Lady Esther Lungu, and the current one, two. And for Mrs. Esther Lungu yesterday, for her to get bond, the police stooped so low as to say, Mrs. Lungu, we can't trust you. you can run away from Zambia. So for us to give you bond, bring us 2 sureties. Now, if a person who holds the office of former First Lady can be a flight risk, a person who is known everywhere can be a flight risk, then you say bring 2 sureties. Who are those sureties who are going to be above her? You go and get a councillor, at a councillor come and be a surety for the First Lady. Councillor ankale surety wa First Lady. Is that normal? MP ankale councillor wa First Lady. Is that normal? If you speak to lawyers, they will tell you that in the statute books of Zambia, there is even what is called bond on recognizance. Huh? A person like me, we don't know you, bring surety, bring Chitotea to be your surety. You don't know me, police, you are sure you don't know me? And leave me alone. What about the former First Lady? This goes to show you that this country has no respect for itself. If they think that that is demeaning Mrs. Lungu, it is not demeaning Mrs. Lungu, it is demeaning the country. This is a country that has no respect for its leaders. And if you have no respect for the former leaders, you should always remember you shall also be former. You shall also be former. And we shall treat you the same. But be calm, Zambians. The Patriotic Front showed you even before. President Edgar Chagwa Lungu bestowed honor and respect on his predecessors. President Edgar Chagwa Lungu did not waste time to build a house for Rupia Banda. He built a house and handed it over to Rupia Banda a few months after he left State House. You saw how President Edgar Chagwa Lungu was sending President Kaunda on missions abroad to be his emissary. He was sending Rupia Banda to be his emissary abroad. President Edgar Lungu had respect for his predecessors. And I want to assure you, when this party takes over, which is very soon, by the way, we shall treat Hakainde and his family with the respect he deserves for being former president. Sorry, I've been reminded. We have actually 4 former first ladies. Mama Vera Chiluba, Mama Maureen Mwanawasa, Mama Christine Kaseba, and now the last one is Mama Esther Lungu. Now, these first ladies deserve to be respected. Mama Betty Kaunda was also one of our former first ladies. We saw in Harare, when we went, how former First Lady Grace Mugabe was being treated. You know that there was rivalry between Mnangagwa and Mugabe, but still, the president had respect for Mama Grace Mugabe. She was sitting right in front. That is how you respect your former leaders. Manje isekuno, Esther Lungu agone muchifungo. Na Lungu agone muchifungo. Maybe ndiye kuchinja mingalato naye kutiuza, because wanatiuza when Edgar Lungu was away, niza chinja mingalato. Niza gwira kangoto manje. All of you are free, you are not being arrested because I'm kind. So now taiona kindness yamba kusira atimange manje. So come, utwange mudara, utwanga tonse. We are ready. Talking about Mingalato, wamenewazi ya kuchea bola na makoch, makoch. They watch how the team is playing. Per half time, wakangena au nakuti, are they playing the same Mingalato yap mu first half? ingati bachinja mingalato, the coach also tells his team, naimwe chinjani mingalato. Isn't it?
Yes.
I want to thank Hakainde Hichilema for warning us that he has changed mingalato. Because we are also changing mingalato. We are changing mingalato. Atiuza kuti mingalato yake is based on trickery. Tayanga na uku ienda kumbuyo. So nice will devise a system to make sure that our back is never behind us.
Yes.
Our back shall be our fronts. I promised Lusaka province last week when I had a meeting, I promised them that I'll start announcing changes. But because of all these things that I've spoken about today, I don't want to distract you, members of the press, from these matters. Make a date with me next week. Same place. Then I'll come and announce the structure of our new Mingalato. Nizabwa nikachita announce muno our new strategy so that our people can know. So that mukationa tachita vintu mwaziva at oho ndiye Mingalato hii. Make a date with me next week. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, President, for that address. Members of the press, you have a lot to chew on. I think the President announced that we'll be having public rallies. I think he's announced one on the Copper Belt, Central Province, and Lusaka. He's condemned the high cost of living. He talked about some actions that will take against the state. You might have any of the questions on the matters he has raised or any other matter. I'll invite members of the press to ask their questions if there are any. Ilo nalikalemba tuwale ipusha sana. Umamata muipusha. Thank you, Mr. President. If there are no more questions, I'll ask the President to lead us. We'll go and meet in the boardroom with members of the Central Committee. And for members of the press, you may have to stay behind.
What year was this? What year was this?
Mr. Edwin Lifukelo.
2012?
You know him very well. Mr. President, may you stand, may we all stand and close in prayer. MCC Kavumbu, will you close in prayer for us?
Before Honorable Kavumbu leads in prayer, because you have not asked any questions, I just want to give you extra information about the so-called free education. Some of you may recall that when Dr. Wanchinga was our Minister of Education, he went to Parliament and informed Parliament or requested approval from Parliament to reduce school fees, which were at 800 kwacha. He reduced them to 150 kwacha. So when they're talking about reducing or giving free education, it is simply taking away 150 kwacha. We reduced from 800 to 150. And these people are reducing from 150 to 0. Who is it who has demonstrated free education? Us who reduced 650 or them who reduced 150? Boza is our paya. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go to prayer, another second announcement. We have